Welcome back for another episode on the Elevate Your Life podcast. Today's episode is going to be all about forgiveness. And so many of the women I've spoken to lately in conversation and even in my own life for the past couple of years, forgiveness has come up several times. And it's one of those things that we don't want to give the person that hurt us, the person that disappointed us, the person that let us down, the person that knew better and could have done better, but didn't, to the person that never apologized, to the person that has not acknowledged. And we don't want to give them our forgiveness. We don't want to extend that olive branch because part of us feels like if we do that, we're giving them the upper hand or we're allowing their behavior, and we don't feel like, the pain that we hold in our hearts has been honored. But let me tell you, and especially from people who have also been physically or sexually abused, mentally abused, emotionally abused, and don't want to give that forgiveness to that person on the other side. The forgiveness isn't for them. I mean, yes, in a way, it's towards them, but more times than not, it is so that your heart doesn't get hardened. And that is the part about forgiveness that we forget, is that what we absorb, what we retain becomes stagnant in us. And that turns into resentment, into anger. It hardens our hearts. It changes our ways. We start to move through life differently based on this resentment that we're holding, this anger that we're carrying. And it's not yours to carry. You don't have to hold that in you anymore. And I want to give you some really good practical examples of how holding on to this bitterness literally blocks your blessings. If you're trying to move ahead in your life, if you're looking to make a career change or a career move or the next level in your career, up leveling, financially, if you're looking to find your forever person or moving ahead in your marriage or growing your family, expanding your home, whatever that looks like for you, and the ways in which you want to expand in your life, right? Calling in your blessings, praying for your miracles. You're also conversely blocking them, sabotaging them without realizing why. And so often we don't, again, realize that all the resentment in our body is what's keeping us from receiving more. For example, let's use a pie, okay? There's only so many slices in a pie. And if your slices are already accounted for, there's no room for blessings to come in. You have to let something go in order for there to be room for something new to come in. But if you're still holding on to something, then the new things, there's no room for it. And so most people misunderstand that forgiveness, number one, you don't need to be face to face with the person you're forgiving. But we also forget that forgiveness must include yourself. Forgiveness is a two-way street. You're not just forgiving someone externally, you're also need to acknowledge yourself. So we're going to break this down here because there's a couple of practices that I've incorporated. Number one, I had to remember what I prayed for in private and now practice that with the person in public. Literally walk the path that I said I was committed to in private. It's so much easier said than done. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say here. So when you're in private and you're practicing, praying, intentionally focusing on forgiveness, and then you're faced with those people in person, all those feelings are going to surface from the depths of your gut, and you're going to feel all of it, especially if they choose not to acknowledge. And you're just sitting there wondering, are you going to say anything? Are you going to acknowledge something? And they don't. And this is the part where you have to ask yourself, what is more important? Going backwards to fix nothing, or choosing to move forward, accepting, honoring, and creating boundaries to now protect your peace. Because now that you know what this person is capable of and not capable of, because every single person, every single one of us has a capacity based on our own level of awareness, based on our own level of willingness to acknowledge and to face, right? And some people cannot face. And you can't knock them for that. That is their own journey. That is where they're at. You intentionally forgive to not harden your heart so that your light isn't dimmed and you don't block your blessings. The second is forgiving yourself, because had you known better, you would have stood up for yourself differently. You know, a lot of times victims of abuse even need to forgive themselves, because had you known better, you probably wouldn't have put yourself in that situation. And that's a really hard thing to hear. But forgiveness is a two-way street. We have to acknowledge forgiving ourselves for what we didn't know and honoring the parts of ourselves that made it through. That version of you was in survival mode. That version of you did the best she could under the circumstances that she was given. And honoring going through that season, surviving it, making it to the other side, and now being able to be strong enough to honor yourself, to know that you're not going to go back there, to hold boundaries, to elevate yourself, to lovingly let go of beliefs, habits, patterns that no longer serve you, and forgive yourself for holding those things, knowing that if you knew better like you do now, you won't make those same choices. I don't want to say mistakes, just choices, okay? Because choices, all of our choices in life have a cause and effect. And I don't even want to say consequences either, because it's cause and effect. And the effect of that choice determines the experience you're going to have. And that experience is either an experience you're going to learn from, you're going to be grateful for, experience you want more of or less of. That's what life is all about. We're constantly making choices and experiencing a cause and effect. And based on that experience, we either want more of it or less of it. And based on our own level of awareness, we get to determine that moving forward. And forgiveness is that gateway. But without it, there is no true healing, in my opinion. You will not be successful in getting over something. You will constantly feel that heartache when you're not invited, when you're not a part of something, when something reminds you of that person, or you hear their name or a name that reminds you of it, or a song that comes up, or something in your home that you come across that was of them, or a photo, like all these little relics that are going to come up as memoirs, reminders, right? Life will attract and bring you things to your awareness to give you the invitation. Is she ready to heal? Is she ready to let go? Is she ready to acknowledge? Is she ready to face and forgive? When we were conceiving our second child, my daughter, who's now almost 15 months, months went by and we were a little confused why things weren't moving forward, why, month after month, nothing was really happening. And we already had one child at that point. So we knew things worked, okay, between my husband and I. And so we were a little just scratching our heads, honestly, the second time around. And it took an incredibly beautiful, sacred, and humbling cacao ceremony, which I did an episode on that previous. You can scroll back and find it. We were in Peru. It was Christmas Day of 2023. And we did a cacao ceremony together in the jungle of Peru. Like, talk about surreal, okay? We've never done cacao before. Cacao is it's chocolate. It's the purest form of chocolate from the cacao plant. And it does not touch any bit of a manufacturing process. It's all made from a loving hand with the elements of the earth. So much love is infused into the cacao that it's essentially a heart opener. So whatever you've suppressed, it surfaces and you drink it like a hot chocolate. So essentially, what came up was unsettled resentment and the need for forgiveness. And both my husband and I, for the layers of our childhood that we have stuffed down. And that was a really hard one to hear for me, especially because I had done years of personal development and inner work and letting go and surrendering even prior to meeting my husband, let alone, now for conscious conception. And it never occurred to me that in order to hold and carry a child that is coming in with pure love, pure existence of God's most beautiful creation and energy, we have to cleanse our own bodies. I'm not talking about juicing, okay? I'm talking about a spiritual cleanse, like cleansing your soul, cleansing your body, where you're going to be holding this energy, this baby. And so I took it really serious. And 4 months to the day, we conceived her, and her due date was Christmas Day following year, 1 year from the cacao ceremony. And she ended up coming actually 4 days prior to that. So I was happy she got her own birthday, not Christmas Day necessarily. But it was very telling of how intentional and how important and the significance of forgiveness. It cannot be skipped over. You simply cannot skip forgiveness. As hard as it is, as much as you don't want to give it to the person outside of you, right? It was essential to calling in one of our greatest blessings. And now every time I look at her earth side, I literally cry. Shortly after she was born, I was then presented with the person in my family to reunite with. And I had to put into practice what I had prayed for in private. And that was really hard. That's when it hit me like, wow, what I said, I meant what I said in private, but now I have to walk it and I have a choice to make. I can either go down the laundry list of all of my things that I want to address, all the things I want to unpack, or I can choose to simply move forward with my now boundaries. And that's what I did. And it's been the greatest blessing because I'm no longer holding or dangling this carrot, waiting for this thing that's not even going to come or not even be, like you go to have a conversation with somebody and they're literally not capable of having the conversation you want to have. And there's no point. It will go nowhere. So the practices I did, number one, setting an alarm on your phone for a time that means something to you every day at the same time, morning, afternoon, night. I actually chose the time of this person's birthday. And to me, every time the alarm went off at this time in the afternoon, every single day, and I just sat whatever I was doing, whether I was driving, walking, cooking, cleaning, holding my babies, whatever I was in the middle of doing, even on the phone, wrapped up the conversation and take a moment of gratitude, sending love, forgiveness, and light and love, like I said. And it's a lot harder in the beginning because it's really awkward. But every day that goes by, it gets a little bit easier because it's no longer about you. And you start to realize that the people outside of you that you're choosing to forgive, that you need to forgive, it could be one, it could be three, it could be five people. All of us are different. But you start to go through that list and you just genuinely, unconditionally, no strings attached, just sending them love for where they are in their life right now, choosing not to hold anything against them or above them or below them, and allowing yourself to be freed of that control, of that bondage, of those strongholds that it once had around your heart. And every day that went by, those strongholds started to loosen their grip on me. And it started to feel lighter and more airy and filled me with more genuine love and filled me with more genuine grace. Because again, we're all living our life based on our awareness, based on the filters of our own traumas that so many of us don't even know about each other. And 4 months later is when I conceived my daughter after doing that practice every day. The second practice is, again, setting a timer, this time on your phone, not an alarm, but a timer for 15. You could do it one time, and it's writing a letter to the person you're actively forgiving. Okay. And this letter, again, just set your timer for 15 minutes and don't let your pen come off the paper. Title the letter to the person you're forgiving and let your heart let it out. Let your heart let it out. Write it all out for 15 minutes, pen to paper, don't pick it up. And when you're done, set another timer for 15 minutes and write one to yourself. Write a forgiveness letter to yourself in relation to this person. What you're thankful for, what you're grateful for, what you're forgiving yourself for. Okay? And when you're done with that letter to yourself, you're going to take both letters, fold them up, and you're going to burn them. This way, you're releasing the energy. You've gotten it out of you, and now you're completely removing it. And that clarity is going to clear the energy from your body. And you're going to also practice setting the alarm on your phone to send love every single day, inviting more light into your own heart. And here's the best part. You don't even have to talk to the person that you're forgiving because energy is felt. It doesn't have to be spoken in person. And if you do come across that person in person, you're going to be different. You're going to have boundaries, but you're also going to have peace in your heart. Stuff will come up, like I said, but you're going to remember this conversation and you're going to hold yourself accountable to honoring the work that you did in private. And that is the bridge to true healing. That is how you walk across the finish line and you are open to receiving your blessings and your miracles. You're no longer stuck. You no longer are hostage to this person, to the situation, to the circumstance, to the events, to the memories, to what you experienced. Yes, they live inside of you. You'll never forget, but they no longer are holding you back. And that is the beauty of forgiveness. That is the gift that we have been given. It's easier said than done, but it's the most beautiful practice. And recently I had a family member pass. It was my first grandparent who passed. I'm so grateful to still have I can't say all four anymore, all three, up until the other week. And one of the things that was said about her in her life was she always talked about forgiveness. And she experienced some really hard things in her life. She grew up in a foreign country on an island in the middle of the war. The Germans from the Nazi era invaded. I mean, they were eating like a slice of bread split amongst all 5 kids with a little bit of olives and olive oil. I'm Greek, so that's like what they had on hand and available, and a little block of cheese. You know, like that's where she came from, and made her way to America and, you know, had many hardships and challenges in her life. And let me tell you this, more people showed up to her funeral than our own wedding. That's how loved she was and the kind of impact she made on people's life. And that doesn't happen because you hold and you harness. That happens because you live and you let go. You live and you let go. And one of her greatest statements, phrases that she always lived by was to never be embarrassed to live your life. Don't be embarrassed to live your life. Don't be embarrassed to forgive, even though it feels weird and awkward and a little unsettling, right? Don't be embarrassed. That is a superpower. And when you learn to master it, you can unlock anything. Nothing can hold you back. Nothing can touch you because the power in you is greater than what happens outside of you. And so I leave you with this message today. I leave you with this intention for the week to actively, intentionally forgive those that you're holding on to, that you're waiting for the apology, that resentment is still there. You may not see it every day or feel it week by week, but somewhere deep down, there's something that needs to be surfaced that you're suppressing. And I invite you to feel it. I invite you to acknowledge it, to honor it, and to let it go. And when you do that, you're going to make more space on your pie for those blessings that you're calling in, for the ways that you're choosing to elevate in your life. I'm sending you so much love, and I can't wait to see you here next time.